This is Mac OS Ken.
Good news, bad news in the supply chain. Yet another fine day for Apple in the Netherlands, and a few details around Apple's latest hardware. It is Tuesday, the 22nd of March, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from Mac OS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by Notion. One workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at notion.so. This show is also sponsored by Upstart. Fair and fast personal loans. If you have multiple credit card balances but are only paying the minimums each month, it can be discouraging. You're paying and paying but barely making a dent in your overall debt. Upstart can help you pay off your existing debt quickly so you can feel like you're finally getting ahead. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score. So rather than looking at your credit score alone, their model considers other factors like your income, employment, and other information provided in your loan application to find a smarter rate for your loan. You can check your rate without impacting your credit score in just 5 minutes for loans between $1,000 to $50,000, and you can receive funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. See why over 1 million people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/macOSKen. UPSTART. That's upstart.com/macOSKen. Don't forget to use my URL to let them know I sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/macOSKen. Good news, bad news in the supply chain. First, the good news. It is back to work for the Foxconn factories in Shenzhen. A little over a week ago, the Chinese government put Shenzhen into lockdown in an attempt to stop a sudden uptick in COVID cases in the city. If a business was not supplying food, fuel, or essential goods or services, workers either had to work from home or not work at all, in theory. I say in theory because Foxconn was able to restart production employing what's called a closed-loop system. Expectations were that the lockdown would last until at least the 20th of March. Now there is word that things are back to running normally. Apple Insider highlights a Reuters report that has Foxconn saying it's basically resumed normal work order and production operations. This as authorities in Shenzhen lift the latest lockdown. While things might be running normally, they're not back to normal. The Reuters piece has Foxconn saying that production has resumed under the premise of abiding by epidemic prevention policies and strictly implementing epidemic prevention and control. One assumes that includes masks, social distancing where possible, and other mitigation measures. Part of Shenzhen is still high risk, according to the report, with orders that workers who can work from home continue to do so. I know that last part didn't sound like good news, but that is the good news in the supply chain. Now the bad news. One company says it's going to be at least a couple of years before chip supply catches up with chip demand. That is not word from somebody who makes chips. That is word from somebody who makes the machines that make the chips. The Financial Times has heard that word from Peter Wenick. He's the CEO of ASML. According to the piece, ASML's machines are used to etch circuits into silicon wafers. The paper has Richard Windsor, tech analyst at Radio Free Mobile, identifying ASML as the single most critical company in the semiconductor supply chain. It is the printing press of silicon chips. And its CEO says, next year and the year after, there will be shortages. We're going to ship more machines this year than last year and more machines next year than this year. but it will not be enough. If we look at the demand curve, we really need to step up our capacity significantly more than 50%. That will take time. Another week, another 5 million euros. TechCrunch says Apple and the Netherlands Authority for Consumers and Markets, or ACM, have failed to reach an agreement on how Apple will implement third-party payment systems for operators of dating apps in the Dutch App Store. Apple has offered a plan for such a system, though the ACM was not turned on by it. As a result, they've been fining Apple 5 million euros per week. That ends next week, not because anybody expects a resolution, but because 50 million euros is as high as this fine is allowed to go. Yesterday's fine brought the total demanded to 45 million. And again, maybe they will reach an agreement. The TechCrunch piece has the ACM saying that Apple has submitted new proposals. In a statement, the organization said, "We will now assess the substance of these proposals. In that context, we will also sit down with various market participants. Our aim is to complete this assessment as soon as possible." While 5 million euros a week is a lot of money, no, it isn't. At least not where a company as big as Apple is concerned. In cases like this, the head of the European Commission's competition arm, Margrethe Vestager, thinks the fines levied need to be an amount that companies like Apple will actually feel. 9 to 5 Mac highlights an interview between Vestager and The Verge, which sounds like a cop show, but isn't. The way Vestager sees it, the Digital Markets Act, a set of pan-European laws aimed at curbing the perceived anti-competitive power of big tech, Digital Markets Act punishments would get tougher as demands go unmet. According to Vestager, in the Digital Markets Act, there is a full toolbox where the sanctions become more and more severe. The fines will increase if you do not implement changes. Eventually in the toolbox, there is also the tool that you can actually break up a company if no change is happening or if you are a repeat offender. You know, my toolbox didn't come with anything. Kind of feel hosed. More news in a moment, but first a word from Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Not all work collaboration tools are created equal. Some help you organize your company's information, others allow you to manage projects together. Notion does both. It is one tool for your whole team to do it all, and it is so beautifully designed, everyone will want to use it. And lots of companies you know do, like Pixar, Spotify, and Headspace. And they share what they do. Notion has a worldwide network of millions of users creating templates, tutorials, and new inspiration. All of that puts your team ahead right from the start. The product is getting better all the time, and you will always have the support you need. With powerful integrations and seamless navigation, you'll have everything you need in one place. Learn more and get started for free at notion.so. You can check it out on your own and invite as many folks as you want to see how it works. Take the first step toward an organized, happy team today, again, at notion.so. iPhone SE fares fairly well in drop tests, though a case is still recommended. That's the word from Allstate Protection Plans by way of iMore. Allstate Protection Plans does what it sounds like, offers coverage for gadgets and gizmos. That gives them an interest in how durable such devices are. By Allstate's account, the side of iPhone SE you talk into, or really stare into, is pretty solid. Dropped from a height of 6 feet onto its face, iMore says the phone only suffered minor scrapes. Drop it on its back, though, and it's a different story. Allstate Protection VP Jason Siciliano sings the phone's praises while sounding an alarm. Quoting the VP, With the third-generation iPhone SE, Apple has created a truly durable phone that doesn't break the bank. It survived one drop from 6 feet on its front side, which is impressive. While it didn't survive a back-down drop from 6 feet, putting it in a case should help. While its $429 price point makes the new iPhone SE a more affordable option, it can cost up to $299 to repair. To limit financial risk, Siciliano suggests a case, a screen protector, and, this will come as a shock, a protection plan. I wonder if he has any he would recommend. Mac Studio seems to ship with Apple's usual technological keep out sign. A piece from Mac Rumors says the SSD storage on Apple's latest desktop is easy to take out, but not easy to replace or upgrade. YouTuber Luke Miani says that is thanks to a software block. According to Mac Rumors, initial teardown suggested that the Mac Studio storage could be upgradable since it is not soldered in place. Each Mac Studio contains 2 internal SSD slots, and the SSDs themselves can be freely swapped between the connectors. Miani wondered whether that made upgrading on his own a possibility. So the piece says he wiped the SSD of a Mac Studio, removed it from the machine, and inserted it into an empty SSD slot in another Mac Studio, but the Mac's status light blinked SOS and would not boot. The piece says the machine sees the SSD, it recognizes it as an SSD, and it won't play. Mac Rumors says such behavior suggests that this is a conscious decision by Apple to prevent users from upgrading their storage themselves. On its website, the piece continues, Apple claims that the Mac Studio's SSD storage is not user accessible and encourages users to configure the device with enough storage at the point of purchase. The site figures the lack of solder on the SSDs is to make work easier for authorized repairs, not to accommodate people who want to go under the hood of the thing for which they have paid several thousand of their own dollars. Apple's new Studio display is turning into quite the mystery machine. Over the weekend, we learned that it runs the latest version of iOS. Now, a number of reports, including one from 9to5Mac, say the 5K display packs 64 gigabytes of onboard storage. Why? Make up your own reason. It uses less than 2 gigabytes, according to the report. 9to5Mac says it makes sense that the Studio display would need some amount of onboard storage, primarily because the display supports software updates and storage space is required to perform those updates. 64 gigabytes, however, seems incredibly excessive if it's there simply for software updates. Then again, it may just be leftover storage. The piece points out that Studio Display is powered by Apple's A13 Bionic processor. That's the same processor that powered iPhone 11. That phone shipped with 64 gigabytes of storage minimum. 9to5Mac figures Apple probably produced millions of A13 Bionic chips with 64 gigabytes of onboard storage and is simply using those for the latest display. I may have missed this when Studio Display was announced, but we know where some of the A13 Bionic strength is going. A piece from Mac Rumors says some older Macs that do not support Hey, Apple's virtual assistant, gain that support when plugged into a Studio Display. According to the report, while Hey, Apple's virtual assistant normally requires a MacBook Pro released in 2018 or later, the feature can be used on 2016 and 2017 models of the 13-inch and 15-inch MacBook Pro while connected to a Studio Display. Likewise, while that command normally requires an iMac released in 2020 or later, the feature can be used on 2017 through 2019 models of the 21.5-inch iMac and 27-inch iMac while connected to a Studio Display. If you regret not going with the $400 adjustable stand option for your Studio Display, good news. While it had been thought that the stand chosen in the initial purchase would be the stand with which you were stuck, you are not. A piece from my download blog says it had been reported that the mounts and stands for Studio Display were not interchangeable. The site says it turns out that that is not the case, and that an Apple Store or Apple Authorized Service Provider should be able to switch one for the other without switching the whole display. And finally today, Studio Display has an unremovable power cord that can actually be removed, but totally probably shouldn't be. According to a piece from the Mac Observer, Apple says the power cord on the 5K display is not removable. The device actually ships with the cord attached. But you can remove it. But you shouldn't. Not without a special tool anyway. Doing so safely, says the piece, requires a special tool. This tool, a large circular drum with a handle, allows the user to wrap the power cable around before pulling it free from the monitor. If you're wondering why Apple would go with such a convoluted solution, have you even met Apple? Actually, the Mac Observer figures the special cord has to do with the Studio Display's wafer thinness. While Apple has offered no explanation, the Mac Observer figures one possible reason could be the fact that the Studio Display is relatively thin compared with other standalone monitors. As such, it wouldn't be able to accommodate the standard C13 power cord. Such a power cord requires a C14 inlet that the thin form factor of the Studio Display is too narrow to accommodate. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Upstart. Fair and fast personal loans. Learn more and check your rate at upstart.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at notion.so. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media. Online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
It's only a wafer thin.